ニックエイム。
エアブラスト。
お、さすが師匠。
What an episode of Reincarnated as a Sword. They missed a huge opportunity this episode. They called her the Goblin Killer, or she earned the status of Goblin Killer. And I was like, yo, you guys just missed an opportunity to call her the Goblin Slayer. And speaking about that, where's the Goblin Slayer? Call him up. Where's he at? Like, he would... This is our boy, the Goblin Slayer. This is him. This is his... He would be feasting right now on this Goblin situation. So let's talk about the episode. So first off, I absolutely love this episode. I thought it was so good. I think it sets the tone. It has high stakes. It's not, and these are all just personal feelings. You know, I shitted on episode 1. I said I didn't like episode 1, and the reason I didn't like episode 1, I'm gonna keep repeating it because I know there's new people who come in every week. I didn't like episode 1 because I thought it focused too much on 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸 the sword, and really, he only makes up a small portion of the actual anime. Really, the star is Fran and her learning about this world and what drives her and him kind of complementing that. And that's where I think episode 2 was killer, 3, and then now 4 are really good. I think episode 1 wasn't that good. So that leaves me back here. So this episode, I thought, really laid the groundwork for what's to come. Right? They set a really high-stakes enemy, which is this goblin, all these hordes of goblin. They talked about having these goblins kind of, like, interact in a way to where, like, they're causing, like, mass chaos and panic. Then we find out that, you know, this is actually being done based on a dungeon that has occurred. We learned about the dungeons, that the dungeons are placed by the god of chaos, right? So we're learning about, like, all of these different inner workings in the world, along with 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸, because he's the one kind of learning and guiding. And then, you know, obviously Fran is there too, but she gets overwhelmed really fast. She doesn't quite understand everything. She's young, and she's ignorant to the world, and, you know, a lot of different things. She just gets overwhelmed really easy. So we're sitting there along with 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸, kind of learning all this stuff, and it's like, I'm eating it up. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is awesome. We're learning all about the world, but I love how they're setting up this, like, huge high stakes thing. They're setting it up as, like, a learning opportunity for us, the viewer, and for Fran. We're learning more about dungeons and the world, and pacing wise, I think that the pacing is really, really good here. They're not rushing too quickly through the first really, like, natural enemy, first really, like, high stakes enemy for Fran and 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸. They're taking their time, kind of, like, building us up for it, but they're doing it in a good way, right? So, like, this episode specifically, we pick up where we got left off last week, right? High stakes, stress was high. Fran and 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸 were able to pull out of it. Fran levels up to a level 12. We find out that she slayed over 100 goblins. She unlocked the status of Goblin Killer, right? We find out later in the episode that Goblin Killer status allows her to ward off other goblins. So basically, goblins look at her and she's like a demon or like a devil. Like they don't see her as this little girl. They see her as, like, somebody, you know, that they need to take caution for. I love that they did that. Then we saw all the crystal absorption stuff that 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸 has to do to kind of level up himself, kind of learn more skills and things of that nature. Then we go to the blacksmith. We see okay, now we have the blacksmith stuff. We see that he has an ability called the arcane blacksmith ability to restore items back to their OG states. The more he does it, the less effective it is, the more it costs, based off of, I don't know if they're called gems, but stones and stuff like that. So that's cool to learn. Again, world building, learning more about the world. Then we moved into where I felt the most intrigued for was learning about the god of chaos, and we learned about the god of war. God of Chaos is actually a goddess. She's the one that comes and tests humans and basically plays games with them, but she also rewards them kindly. Some revere her, some fear her, but very interesting to learn about that god in general. We learn about the god of war. The god of war was greedy, and he basically got too out of control, so he ended up being sealed away. We find out that monsters, super interesting, monsters of this world are actually born of the god of war. So based on his negative emotions, that's where it bred out monsters, and they are basically the god of war's kin. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, to me, that's interesting. Then it's time for the dungeon attack. We see Fran busting out her new moves, going full Goblin Slayer. You know, Fire Blasto. She does advanced magic for fire. Well, 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐸 does advanced magic for fire. She does advanced magic for the jumping ability that she has, Really cool stuff. She's showing off to all the different adventures, basically showing that she's on a different level. She was also ranked up to level F as well from G. So again, high stakes. We got to see the goblin mage. We got to see the goblin queen or king, maybe. I'm not really sure who it is. They're trying to build a goblin empire. All really interesting stuff. So I think this episode is absolutely kick-ass. Like I said, I think the pacing's really good. I think the stakes are really high. They're taking their time with kind of laying out the groundwork. She's leveling up. We're seeing badass scenes. We're seeing consistency, but we're not going through it too quickly to where it's like, oh, I wish they did X, Y, or Z. It's like we get to see her level up. We get to see her get new items. We get to see her, go out and get new armor. We get to see her get her scabbard, or 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐽 gets his scabbard. We get to see the cool stuff from there. So again, all the stuff is kind of building up to it. We got a little fan service sprinkled up in there. 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐽 got his sword back washed by Fran. He got to press up against some Fran bazongas. Good for him. For us, weird fan service, but I'll take it, I guess. Fran's a cutie at the end of the day. So all good there. So we got a little fan service. We got to see Neil, the guild advisor lady. 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐽 got to see her as well. We got to see 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐽's, mystical arms. They remind me of the My Brain is Trembling guy from Re:Zero. That kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But we got to see that, so maybe he can fill up some lady bazongas with that. You know what I mean? Some mystical arms. That'd be cool for him. But overall, I thought this episode was solid. I think this is easy. I don't want to overshoot it. 8 out of 10, really great episode. I think I'm really loving what they're doing so far here. And again, I shitted on episode 1, but episode 2, 3, and 4, I'm all in, and I'm really loving what they're doing here. I think it's very, very unique, and I'm glad that, even though this is reincarnated as a sword, and 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐽 is a part of the show, he's like 15-20%, and Fran takes up the majority, as well as the world building and, the people around her and stuff. So glad they decided to do that. So that's my feelings towards this episode. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I'm off base. Let me know if I'm pretty much on par with what you're thinking. Let me know if you want more 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐽 or less. Just let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you being here this week. And my friends, see you guys next Wednesday.